Hi, it's Greg Archer with MovieWeb. How are you two today?
Good.
Doing well. How are you?
I'm pretty great. I like the velvet or the violet background there. That's awesome. Congrats on the show. It's very fun.
Oh, thank
Thanks.
you.
That's like
Absolutely.
Hollywood. That's a green screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Michael, you worked with executive producer, showrunner Sally Bradford McKenna on Will and Grace some 25 years ago when you were very young. And
Yes.
I'm just wondering how that experience with her and that show informed or inspired you for the choices you wanted to make moving forward into adulthood.
Oh man, I that show was majorly influential on my on so many things. Definitely, obviously, my career. That show had just such great reach, and people to this day talk about that show and seeing me on that show and that character and though, but seeing those actors, um, just their level of professionalism and creativity and just how generous they were with each other. It was, yeah, it was just, it had such a huge influence on me as a young actor, specifically Sean Hayes. I worked with him so much. And he was always approachable and accessible and so down to earth. And I just loved watching them work. Like, even though I was so young, I would just love watching them rehearse because as great as the writing was, and whenever I talk about Will and Grace, I'm like, their the writers' room on that show was best ever. But watching the actors create so many of those iconic bits was really impressive and amazing to watch. And anyway, you're totally right. It was just very influential on me throughout the rest of my life in so many ways.
I love it. Thank you for that. And I love your character here and what the story arcs maintain. So, Andre, you're in stand up. So, I'm curious how what lessons do you learn from stand up, and do you bring that into your work? And what work do you bring into from your acting into stand up? And how does that work for you? And how does that jive for you?
Well, even when I do stand up, I'm kind of like a weirdo stand up. I mostly like perform at stand up nights, but as like a character I create. And then so it's always a little bit of both. But I think where it plays into both is like I like to go into things with bullet points with room to sort of like improvise and try different things. So each production's a little different that you go into, but I always like trying to like add my little, I don't know, flourishes here and there. And sometimes there's a lot in it, sometimes there's not many in it, but I like to have the space to do those things.
Right.
Yeah.
So can you both talk about what it's like to work with Stephanie and Zosha here? I mean, this is such a twisted, fun series. So Michael, maybe you can talk about you've worked with great scene partners before, like Sean Hayes, as you mentioned. What's it like working with Stephanie here?
She's a dream. She's such a. I just thought from the start, Stephanie was such a great. It was such a great marriage of actor and writer in Nanochka and Sally's writing and Stephanie as an actor because you wouldn't know what came first. Would they like I asked Stephanie very early on. I was like, did they write this for you? Did they write the pilot for you for your voice? And she said no. And I was like, well, then it's just such a a perfect kind of kismet connection because yeah, like hearing Ruby come alive in the table reads and stuff, you were just like, she set the tone in so many ways, and definitely as a number one on the call sheet, she was just so generous and thoughtful and caring and really wanted everybody to have a good experience. So I mean, she was exactly what you would ever want from a scene partner.
Yeah, yeah. She's very
Right.
different than Ruby.
Yes, that's
As well
fair.
as she fits the
That's very
character, she's
fair.
also very different. Yeah.
Yes.
Got it. You know, I have to ask you, Michael, you're playing John Wayne Gacy's lawyer in a new series, and I'm
Yep.
wondering how that affects you or how it was taking on a much darker role than something like comedy.
Yeah. I mean, very different world and energy. And fortunately, it's uh, a great group of people that I think the actors and the showrunner, Patrick, and all of the directors are very conscious of supporting one another mentally and emotionally throughout that entire process. So we're in the middle of it, but it's as scary and dark as it is, it's been a really positive experience.
Thank you for that. Andre, I love your character here. I like the series, trippy, fun. So if you could describe this show in a sentence or a few words, what would it be?
Like a twisted rom-com. Rom-com with death.
I'm with that, right. And it maintains sort of like it's a story for romantics, I think, too. Andre, what's it like for you working with Zosha and having your scene? Because you two play a very interesting couple.
Yeah, working with her is great because she's just like a fun, funny hang, like away from set. It's not like, oh, cut, no more comedy. Like she's just like a funny person. And she's not like, I know we keep saying it, it almost gets like cheesy to be like, everybody was great, but like they were. So yeah, it was nice working with her. And then the scenes were we got to like argue and things like that. And she would make certain scenes, I don't know, like just like comfortable, which what you would want from any scene partner. But I'd say she was great at that. Yeah.
Oh, what I love about your guys' relationship in the show is that they seem, when you have these people in real life, couples who you're like, that is a weird couple.
Right. Yeah.
And you guys, when you first, in the first few episodes, you're like, that is a weird couple. And then as the show goes on, you're like, actually, they're kind of great for each other.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing. It's like when you're supposed to be playing someone's like boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, like to have a relationship dynamic. I find that to be like the hardest thing, and she made it a lot easier.
Very cool. Well, congrats. I love this series. It's my kind of series, and I think fans are going to really love it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.